All right, everybody, let's get ready to sit back down. Glenda had asked me a question I wanted to talk to people a little bit about. She asked, why would that RV park in Butte, Montana be under contract for $5 million when it was listed at $3 million? And I'd say, welcome to 2021. Because that's what's happening, is RV parks are up probably 30 or 40% in value in the last year or so, because their revenues are just off the charts. If you saw the revenues a few years ago and you said they were going to be like this, you'd be a liar, okay? Because it's amazing. They've raised their rates, their occupancy and their bookings are just crazy. The places are full. The one, an example, one I don't have listed in Manitou Springs, they charge $90 a night to park your RV, okay? $90 a night. It's because the hotel room is $189 in town now, whereas both of those numbers used to be half of that, and it's not anymore. And so, will this last? We don't know, probably not, but where does it rest when it levels off? Since we're early in it, it's probably still going to be okay, but yeah. We think we're the beginning of filling a bubble on RV parks, in my opinion, because they're really taking off like crazy. And it's not bad yet, but I have a feeling people will, in the next few years, be paying more than they should for RV parks. But the real reason on the Butte, Montana one, just to let you know, the city in all is putting in about $100 million, $130 million in the river stuff around it, including these places where you can kayak and all that kind of stuff. So there's a real upside on that one, and that's why but yeah, it's literally, we're talking 60% over asking price on an RV park. I never thought obviously some fool priced it too low, so, right? But it worked, thank God. So, anyhow, alrighty. I left the identify takers because that's the most important thing we do. When we get back to the value perception, guess what? You guys are all takers. You just, have to suck it up and say, yeah, I am a taker. But it's based on your preferences. Here we get to another one of the old Exchangor slides that we've all seen 100 times. And too bad Weaver's not in here because he's seen this 1,000 times. I really like this slide. It's a real old one. How else can you expand the market for your property? Ask yourself, can I accept something other than cash for my equity? This is what you need to talk to your clients about, especially if it's not selling. So, a caveat I always tell people, and I have to repeat it over and over again, if you can sell it for cash and get enough cash to buy the next thing you want and do a regular 1031, sell it for cash, okay? When that's not the case, we do other things. There are always more takers in the marketplace with notes and or equity than cash buyers, okay? As you read down the chart, each step downward increases the number of people who can add and will take your property. My favorite part of this slide is potential takers can disappear in smoke because of sellers' inflexibility. If someone says, I'm a taker for your property, and they're going to give you something and you don't want it, if you say no, it's all over. It's done. Okay? Don't do that. Say yes, subject to finding something else instead of what you offered me, because what I've found is the only thing I'm looking for, and that's you, a taker. Okay? So for a given property, there's a certain number of people here who are going to jump up and write a check for cash. A lot of us will say, hey, if you sell or carry it, or if I can write a note and buy it, there's a lot more of us that will buy it. If you'll also take that thing that my client's looking to get rid of, there are a lot more people who are going to be takers for your property if you're a taker for their property. If you're geographically flexible, for instance, if you'll go to Maryland, okay, if you'll go all around the country, you'll find it a lot easier to get deals done. And look at what happens if you add cash or notes to your equity. That's what used to be known as buying your way out of a property. Okay? If you add enough cash to anything, somebody is going to buy it. Okay? So if so I'm gonna pick on Frank's piece of land. So Frank's got $100,000 free and clear piece of land out in the desert. It doesn't look much different from the other pieces of land. His client, I present a $2 million property. He says I'm a taker for it. I go to my client and I said, hey, Frank's a taker for it. He's got this piece of land in the desert. If I let my client say no, I'm an idiot, okay? Because what they're talking about is he's talking about bringing $1.9 million in money, a $100,000 piece of land. Well, heck, a good portion of that land already belongs to the brokers if we want to take it, but pretty much anybody will take that piece of land. And maybe subject to doing something else with the land, and we've got to go find something else. But don't say no to a taker because you don't like what they have. Because they're going to have to give you something else in order to get it from you. Yes, Frank?
It actually was a $20,000 lot ready to build and $200,000 cash, and I couldn't give it away.
Yeah, well, you can right now if you need to. Yeah. So he had a $20,000 piece of land and $200,000 cash. He said he couldn't give it away. Yeah, you can give it away now because there are plenty of people in this room. We'll write a note for it, or we'll give you a piece of property for it because we don't want that piece of land. We want the $200,000 of cash. Okay, the piece of land is a must-take, and that must-take will go and heck, we may trade it at a cowboy auction and get ourselves a car or something for it. Who knows? All right, anyhow, I just wanted to put this slide up. This is another one that, like all this stuff, I didn't write this stuff. This stuff's been around for decades, and there are a lot wiser people than I am who put this together. But this is the essence of exchanging and getting more takers. All right, I love this one. I see young men, my townsmen, whose misfortune it is to have inherited farms, houses, barns, cattle. For those are more easily acquired than got rid of. That's the essence of real estate. Real estate is much more easily acquired than got rid of, okay? It's hard to sell real estate. It's so hard that a client will pay me a commission to pay you a commission to bring a buyer to buy their property because it's really hard to sell property. You wake up in the morning and say, I want to sell property. Guess what you do? You go, you put it out there and you tell everybody about it. If you wake up in the morning and say, I want to buy property, guess what happens? You buy property. Okay, so it's easier to buy than it is to sell. Why would we not always buy? Okay, why would we put ourselves through the trouble of selling when we can always buy? Okay, and when I say that, I mean when you're selling something, you're really buying a different set of benefits with that property. Okay, so you don't want the cash. You say you're going to sell it for cash, but you're going to buy something else with the cash. Go buy something else with the property, okay, is what I'm saying. And if they won't take it, we can find somebody to buy the property from and make it work. That's for you Denver guys, the John Richardson story I'll tell you. I don't know if I've told you guys this before. John Richardson's an exchanger for a long time. He used to work for my dad. If my dad ever knew about these groups, he never told me about it. I think he just did these kind of deals himself forever. But John Richardson had a lot. This is about probably 70 in Denver, maybe 72 or something. In Denver, he had a lot and he wanted to buy a house. He went to every broker in Denver and he couldn't find anybody who could work with him to get a house with his lot. And this is in the time when you had FHA non-qualifying assumable loans. So and I was like, oh my God, this is easy. We just go put the lot down on a house with an FHA non-qualifying assumable loan and we'll just buy the lot back. And oh my goodness, how easy is that? And John Richardson did that and then did it again and again, and he was an exchanger for 40-something years. So there's just an example. It's nothing new. People have been doing it forever, but it's hard to sell. It's easy to buy. Jason Dillard, an exchanger from South Carolina, a real creative guy, says everyone presenting at a marketing session is really just placing an order on behalf of their client. Okay, if you're going out there and you say, I want to sell it for cash, you're ordering, saying, I want to order $2 million in cash to be delivered to my client, and I'll give you a deed. Okay? When you go up to the podium, you're saying, hey, I don't want what I got, we want something different. So we're placing an order. The job of us is do we have the restaurant to fulfill that order? Okay, can we answer that need. Because if we can, we're going to make money. So you want to identify what are the benefits sought, and what are the benefits being offered, okay? I always focus the benefits sought not nearly as important as the benefits being offered, but when the benefits sought are something other, that's when we bring it to the marketplace. The benefits being offered, we present to everybody. Okay, without asking questions and assembling the information, how can you possibly do this? And the answer is you can't. You have to counsel the people in order to know what the benefits sought are, what the benefits offered are, and to do the whole process. And the bottom part, this is more for the NCE thing, is have respect for the room, okay? Know your stuff. Don't waste people's time. We have a group here of about 40 brokers. I would say the average experience is easily 20 years, okay? So you've got 800 years of experience here in this room. Respect it, it'll help you. Another thing I tell you, like when we go to the national meeting, you've got a 6-minute presentation, you've got 110 brokers. That's 660 broker minutes you're spending. That's 11 hours of a broker's time you're spending when you stand up at the podium. Think about it and make sure what you present up there is relevant and is going to get a deal done. And the focus is to get a deal done. So that's just my nagging, because I've been nagged to do the same thing. Okay, now we're switching gears a little. What is a formula? Okay. A formula is a way to get a deal closed. That's pretty much all it is. Okay, any set of circumstances, easiest formula is lowering or raising the price. Or actually, the formula itself is selling for cash. Okay, we all know that formula. We all know sell or carry. Okay, most brokers know. I have to say I had a local broker in my marketplace recently. I had a piece of land. I offered it out there for cash or for carry. I said sell or carry. She tells me she's been licensed 20 years. She did not know what a sell or carry was. Okay, and it's because residential people, and it's right, they should be trained not to do that. But we do have people who've been licensed 20 years who don't know that. So just be aware and help educate people. Exchanges often involve combinations of formulas. So when we use a note in a deal, we're combining a lot of times a sell or carry with another exchange formula. Remember, necessity is the mother of invention. Okay, if you can do it easily, do it. If you can't do it easily, still do it. Okay? You're a public servant. You have a duty to serve the public. And sometimes to get paid. That's how my dad taught me, is the state gives us a license to serve the public, sometimes we get paid. It's our duty to make sure we get paid. It's our job to make sure we get paid. It's our duty to serve the public. Okay, so if it's not easy, don't just say, I don't want to do it because it's not easy. Go ahead and go that extra mile and use the formula and get it done. Because we can all just put stuff in the MLS and sell them for cash. And if we all wanted to do that, there's not a single person should be in the room. And so we're all here because we don't. All right, so here's a formula with a picture. This will get you excited, okay? Here's trying to get everybody a little lively. I had somebody draw a cartoon for me with color, so this is a big thing. People who know me would think it's a big thing. Anyhow, in the second formula in the Bob Steele book, the first one being an unpriced listing. So Bob Steele is one of the people who's been doing this exchanging forever, about with Richard Reno for 60 years. He's got a book, 300 Ways to Buy, Sell, or Trade Real Estate. And there are a number of books like that. Royce Ringsdorf had one of the 100 Ways. Anyhow, most of them have as one of the first or second formulas the creation of wealth formula. And I went ahead and made a little cartoon for it so people can understand what this is, okay? And what we do here. Okay. On the left, you've got a house that is worth $250,000, okay? This, I should change the numbers now, but you got a little house worth $250,000. It's got $100,000 of debt. What you or your client wants is the $400,000 fourplex across the street or next door or whatever. Let's say it's next door because you want to keep the house. You want this, but you don't want to sell that, okay? Normally in an exchange, we just say, hey, I'll give you my $250,000 house, I'll go get a new loan for the difference, and I'll take you fourplex, and you can sell my house if you want, or whatever. No, we don't want to sell the house. We want to create a bigger portfolio. That's what we're talking about with creation of wealth. We want to buy the $400,000 fourplex. So what do we do to do it? We just create, and you can, in Colorado we're lucky, we have a state-approved promissory note and deed of trust, so I can literally just get on my computer and type it up. You know, you've got attorneys here that can do it. Well, you guys have a real estate contract, which is a similar thing. I don't want to get into that to confuse you, but basically we can write a note and deed of trust, have a lawyer do it however you need to do it. It's an IOU, basically. So you go and you say, hey, Mr. Seller of the $400,000 fourplex, can I give you a $100,000 note as a down payment, and then go bring $300,000 from a new bank loan? If I gave you that, would you do the deal? Okay? Assuming we find somebody who says, yeah, I like that deal. Because what does this guy get, okay? This guy or gal, I should not be such a sexist, is this person has a property that they're selling for $400,000. They got on the market to sell for $400,000. They probably didn't pay $400,000 for it. They probably owned it for a while. What we're offering them is $300,000 in cash, and then monthly payments, and then get paid another $100,000. Okay? If you explain it to the clients that way, if their broker can explain it to them, they'll get it. Yes, Stephen?
Banks in first place?
Bank's in first position. So you can go to a bank and say, hey, banker, will you give me a 75% loan to value on this fourplex? They say, fine. Okay, some banks may say, oh, we don't recognize your note as a down payment. You can put cash down and buy the cash back if you need to, okay? There's an opportunity for somebody to make $1,000 on flash cash or something like that for a period of time if you needed to. But we'll assume the person will take the note because that's the kind of benefits they're looking for, and that the bank understands. And when you write the contract, you can basically call it proceeds. Depending on how you want. We can go into the details there, but the bottom line is the bank needs to recognize a $100,000 down payment. They're probably going to require an appraisal, and now you'll have a $300,000 new loan. Okay, so you still have the original house, not the one you lived in. Okay, and well, I guess it could be the one you lived in if you can find somebody who'll take the note. But this house, little rental house you've got that now. It's got an existing debt of $100,000, but guess what? It now has another $100,000 of debt. Now you've taken this little house from 40% leverage up to 80% leverage, okay? This property here that you now have has a $300,000 new debt, but it does not have, that second note's not really there. You only owe $300,000 on it, okay? So you started with the house and the fourplex. You did a down payment of $1,000 new note, $3,000 new debt. So you started with $150,000 equity in the house, and you ended with $150,000 equity. $50,000 still in that little attic, and $100,000 of it's here. Okay? We call it creation of wealth, but did we create any equity here? No. We didn't create equity. We acquired more property, and we spread our equity out. How did we pay for it? And here, literally, we pay for it with notes, but really, in the philosophical world, we paid for it with risk. Okay? What happened to our risk in this situation? We went from one house with a 40% debt. So let's say that we were all alive in 2008. Let's just pretend we were all alive in 2008. What happened in 2008? That value, that 250, went down to 125, okay? That 400 went down to 200, okay? When that happens, was this a good idea? No. My favorite Spinal Tap line is, it's a fine line between clever and stupid, okay? The fine line between clever and stupid moves when the market crashes, okay? So it's not a miracle doing this. It's taking risk to build a portfolio. You're paying for that creation of wealth with additional risk. One definition of profit is payment for risk. Okay, and so here, that's how you're doing it. But the bottom line is, I don't want to detract from the wonderful beauty of this. Any property you own and you want to keep, that you have a significant amount of equity, and if you want to roll the dice, you can borrow more money this way without going to a bank, by just creating a debt, and then you go and buy something. And you are rolling the dice, okay? We all believe in real estate. We all believe it appreciates. That's why we're doing this. Sometimes it doesn't. I just want everybody to be aware why is this not just happening all the time? Well, the eventual situation is you'd have all debt and no equity. Okay, if you just kept doing it. And that's not gonna be good either. So, in the right circumstances, with the right situation, this is a great formula. Did they exchange property? No. They exchanged a note and cash for a piece of property. They bought a piece of property. Still an exchange formula because it's a way of making a real estate transaction, or it's still a real estate formula, and it's one of the oldest ones, and it's worked real well. And it's got all kinds of different ramifications. Any questions on that? All right. Now I'm going to try to confuse you all, or I will. Hopefully not. So a thing that I've gotten to where I specialize in is a thing called 1031 paper. Okay, this is, now again, most of my transactions still close the regular way. A lot of this is setting up deals and getting them to work. But what I'm talking about here is, the first thing I discuss when I discuss this is point out that there's stuff in our pocket that has the presidents on them, right? What is this stuff, right? We call it cash and all, but what is it really? These are promissory notes from the Federal Reserve, okay? They're promising to pay us. And the person at the bar, that's an IOU from Uncle Sam, the person at the bar will take an IOU from Uncle Sam and give you a drink. It's the miracle of America and the world. This paper fiat currency that we created, we all believe in it. I absolutely believe in it too. The full faith and backing of the U.S. government. It's very strong. But it's just a promissory note. And so any rules that apply to cash, by definition, apply to promissory notes because cash is a promissory note. So let's start, instead of using depreciating green promissory notes with presidents on them, let's go ahead and use promissory notes with our signature on them and that bear interest and that have actual real security in real estate. If the government were to default, we all have a problem, okay? We will not get recourse for those bills if the government were to default. Now, we all are Americans, we don't think that'll ever happen, but if I default, you get to take my property, okay? If the government defaults, we don't get to take their property. So, I would propose that interest-bearing promissory notes are better and worth more if you have enough money to pay your bills, but again, the person at the bar will not take them, and they won't give you a drink for it. Except they maybe give you a drink for the story. But anyhow, let's show you what 1031 paper is. So I've got and this is the beginning slide of the whole process. I'm just going to go over the first one. But I have a property, and I want to buy a different property. And I come, and I'm going to say, hey, I want to do 1031. I want to sell my first property, just like the regular 1031 slide, okay? I just want to sell my property, I want to take some money, and I want to go buy this other bigger property, and I'm going to get a new loan. So here we'll pretend this is a $100,000 office condo, and this is a $400,000 fourplex again, just because it's easy, okay? And I take it to a marketing session, I take it out to the MLS or whatever, more like a marketing session, and I get somebody who says, I want to give you, 25 grand down in cash, or the example I use a lot of times, a $25,000 RV as a down payment, and then I want you to carry the financing. And you say, well, shit, that's not what I want to do. I don't want that. I want this thing over here, okay? But guess what I got? I got a taker, right? And what did I tell you you don't do when you get a taker, right? You don't say no. You say yes, okay? Yes, if. Okay, yes, I will take your $25,000 RV, and your $75,000 seller carry note you want me to carry, I'll take that if I can get the guy across the street with that fourplex to take your $25,000 RV, take your first note, and I'll go bring a new loan for $300,000. If we can get him to do that, absolutely, I'll take your RV and you'll get this little house, okay? So you go over to Mr. Seller and you say, Mr. Seller, if I gave you $300,000 in a new loan, then I give you $75,000 first loan secured by a house that pays interest and it's good, and I threw in this $25,000 RV, is there any reason you wouldn't do that deal? Okay? We'll just pretend now we get the right person who says, for goodness, $300,000, I paid $200 for it, I got $100,000 in my pocket, I got a $75,000 note, paying me $375 a month, and shit, I got this RV. Why don't I drive it to Disney World and back, and then drive it into the ocean, okay? Because hell, I would have sold it for $375, right? So, brokers need to get paid. In this case, it's easy, we get paid out of that cash. And, that part's easy. But what have we accomplished here is the person who brought the RV got their house, the person with the house, or with the little office condo got the fourplex, and everybody's happy. And so this is the basic of 1031 paper. Well, how does that work? Because you got two transactions here. So the title to the RV or the $25,000 cash, the title of the RV is a good way to say it, and the paper, the seller carry first note and deed of trust that we just wrote, will not be written out to Mr. Seller. It will be written out to Mr. Seller's qualified intermediary for the benefit of Mr. Seller. Okay? So he's not going to take that. Qualified intermediary will take that paper. Qualified intermediary will take the title. At the closing of the fourplex, the bank will bring a new loan for $300,000. The qualified intermediary will deliver that note assigned now to the buyer, or to the seller of the fourplex. So they'll now say, pay to the order of seller 2, okay? And they're going to get that title back in a little title card will have gone from the person to the qualified intermediary to the other person, okay? And I didn't even think about until now, hopefully they all do it as one transaction so that the stupid DMV doesn't get paid twice. Okay, but that's another thing. Technically the DMV, right, could get paid twice on that because you sold it twice. But anyhow, but bottom line is the qualified intermediary is going to hold all that stuff. You do not want the note written out to you, because as soon as that note's written out to you and they signed it, guess what?
Tax.
It's taxable. That's collective receipt. You could take that note somewhere and get money for it. As soon as you have that, 1031's over. Okay, so they need to pass it for you. You don't touch that paper. Okay, and this is the first step of the 1031 paper process. I don't think I put the others on there. Okay, yeah. So what happens is this can just keep going. So say this person doesn't want the RV, they want $1 million retail center. We just keep doing the same thing over and over again. At the end, as brokers, we can take that $75,000 note and that $25,000 RV. We have to flip a coin to who gets stuck with the RV, but we as brokers will end up earning that. So it's just a catalyst. So we'll never be part of it. So I can go over that later, but I don't want to bore people with it now. I have on our 1030, so on YouTube, we've got a 1031 paper channel. This is what Asher does. He puts a lot of content out there. We've got a full class, however many, I don't remember how long it was, 3-hour class, I think, at NCE, just on 1031 paper. Okay, so if you want to watch that video, that will help you with that. Alrighty, so any questions on that? So this is basically, I'm building up a marketplace doing this. This is the gist of what I do now a lot of the times, is 1031 paper. So if any of you are coming to circumstances where you need this formula, I'm happy to co-op with you, because if your license law is like ours, you can't do something unless you have some expertise in it. all of you now have a relative amount of expertise in it. Once we've done a deal, you're ready to go and help everybody out in the marketplace with the same kind of deals, okay? And it's a little complicated, but it works. It's very effective. So I don't want to go dig too much into that. So what did I put back down? Okay, guess why I put this in? You saw this slide before, right? Why do you think I put it in twice? Because it's important. Once we find the taker, we can go to work. Let's see what else we got in those. You always want to ask more questions, okay? When you're watching a presentation at the podium, instead of picking up your phone or checking your email, and unless it's one you've seen 100 times, going to the bathroom, things like that, instead of doing that kind of stuff and finding out your own selfish thing, living in your own world, ask myself, how can my client be a taker for what is being offered? Okay? And how can the taker take it? So, with this taker taking, like I said, I don't want to get too far afield with this. If the taker is offering you something, what are they looking for? Okay? And what if you don't want it? Okay? So, what are they really looking for, and what are they offering? Because now, as I was getting in Frank's example, you may not want what they want, what they're offering. You're going to see if you can find something else in lieu of it. So you can go market that property as well as trying to find a taker for it, because that'll close your deal. Or there might be a third leg in the room for what is being offered. How many people here, well, I guess aren't even asked. Some of you may or may not know what we refer to as a third leg. Okay, a third leg, when we have an exchange and we have these same circumstances, you've got a fourplex and somebody offers you a piece of land down and your client says no, okay? How do we make that work, okay? So, what is the client really looking for is what we're gonna find out, okay? And if what they're looking for is satisfied partially by the cash, yet they have this piece of land, that's what they're gonna use to go to the next leg, okay? That's called a third leg. In that example, if we can find a taker for the piece of land, that's the third leg of the transaction. We get 3 legs we put together. A lot of times you can find it by, you can sell or carry that land now, okay? Because maybe the taker, or maybe the person doesn't want the land, but they take a note on the land, okay? So if you find a taker for the land with financing, well, the other people, it wasn't really what you desired, you wanted something else, that will work, okay? Now when they go to the marketplace, if they still don't want the paper, they've got paper instead of cash to offer. More people generally want paper than cash. So this is just a way to use third legs to make it work. So anytime we have here where someone gets a taker and they don't want it, please look for third legs. And so what we done generally with the presentations is Frank presents something and John puts his number out and he's got a package number on it, okay? So you now go to John's package and you look and see who offered on his package, okay? And you try to find some way to assemble the deal, put the deal together if your person isn't a taker for theirs. Because ideally, everybody would have identified some takers for their property by the end of the meeting. And so when we go to a national meeting, we have this whole list of numbers, and so that's sort of the way we do it. I hope that's not too confusing. Who has questions about the third leg thing that I kind of mocked up for you? Everybody understands that?
If you put enough legs on it, you can be the taker.
Yeah.
And
Right, so what Rick's point, and that's what I said before, if we put enough legs in the deal, the broker can usually take the smallest first property for a fee, okay? And that's a lot of times how these things end up closing. So nobody wanted the piece of land. Rick might end up with a piece of land, okay? Because that's the way the deal works. Okay, now another thing when we talk about motivations, if Rick or I or some other broker in here just took that land for their fee, how motivated do you think they are? Do you think they might discount that for cash? So you probably found a nice creative way to get a piece of land cheap. So if somebody knows getting a $100,000 piece of land for their commission, offer them 50 grand cash for it. When it's a commission, you know, you might sell a $100,000 piece of land for the $50,000 because you thought you were wanting to get the cash from a commission earned income anyhow. You were planning on cash with a tax consequence. Okay, so if you have to take something else, you can sell that for a discount. Another thing I ask all the time with the clients is this a need or a want? It's important to know the difference. If they really need to do it, they shouldn't be very picky. If they've got a really good situation, they just want to do something, that's very different. So just know with your clients whether it's really a need or a want. If they really need to do the deal, you should have to be a little more aggressive and work a little differently than if it's just something they want to do. And that's a little nebulous, but forgive me. Okay, just for the nuts and bolts of this. When the presentation is over, we call for numbers. If you are even casually interested, call out your number, okay? Because you may have an idea or a thought. If you think it would work for a particular package, please call out the number with the package number, okay? So each of us has different packages, 1, 2, 3 kind of thing. Say the package you're interested in with the package number. That when the people go back to their client, they can actually take the package out and say, this is what they offered, or this is what they're interested in. So that's a taker. So the first one's interested, the second one's a taker, and the third one is a super taker. So a super taker is the person ready to do the deal there. So if they're the principal in the room or they have permission from their client to do a deal, you can do a deal right now. So for instance, myself, I'm a principal on some things. If we put together a deal, or if I see something on the super taker, I say I'm a super taker, I can have you an offer written from my computer within 20 minutes or something. We can sign stuff up and be under contract when we leave the meeting. So that's kind of the beauty of doing that. All right. I went over this a little bit, sorry. What is the third leg? We talked about this. How does it work? So the in lieu clause, always, in my opinion, accept the offer subject to finding something else in lieu of what they offered you. You can always write language in there. You have the right to terminate. If they don't give you, if you can't find something in lieu of what they're offering that you find acceptable, then, you know, it's not going to happen. But this gives you another way to make it work. Now, what happens, you know, the thing that people might worry, so you've got a contract subject in lieu, someone comes with a cash offer, full price by the property. Guess what's probably going to happen? You're probably not going to, the trade's probably not going to happen that way unless they don't want the cash, okay, which is a good thing to always ask if that happens. So, does this really work? The bottom line is yes, okay? When I talk about statistically, and I've talked to some different people, I know Steve and I have talked about it, if you try to go through the book and do hypothetical matches for equities and say this one matches with this one, matches with this one, every deal has less than 100% chance of success, as we know, and if you, which is a number less than 1, and if you multiply a bunch of numbers less than 1 by each other, what does the math teach? What happens if you multiply a bunch of numbers less than 1? What happens to the number? It gets smaller, it just shrinks down, and your chances of success goes to nothing, okay? So a hypothetical 6 or 8 leg exchange is darn near impossible. But does it really work? Of course it does, because what we have with the 2-legged exchange waiting for the 3-legged or the 3-legged waiting for the 4th leg, it cannot close without the other leg. So now that extra one actually statistically increases the chance of success, okay? So if they're not artificially drawn up, these things really make things work, okay? If they're artificially drawn up, it's a little tougher. But yeah, it works, yes.
One other thing you need to consider is when you start those legs, what you're doing is you're adding other brokers that help you make that deal.
Right, yeah, what Rick said, and it absolutely is, when you're adding legs, you're adding brokers, okay? And if you're adding a guy like Rick, how many years have you been licensed, Rick?
Since 75.
So however many years it's been since 1975 is how long Rick's been licensed, okay? And so that's a lot of experience just by getting Rick in as a leg of the deal, okay? If you get 4 of these people in this room, you're going to have, you know, darn near 200 years experience working on your project, it's gonna close, okay? Because do you do deals not to close?
So what?
You don't do deals with the intention of not closing.
Oh, absolutely not.
Right, so we all get them done. Okay, and the numbers, how can the numbers help me track third legs? Like I said, when somebody offers you on your property with something that you don't want, you immediately open the book to their package and see who offered on what they have, and see if you want any of that. If you can find somebody who's got something you want, in 2, 3, 4 legs down the road, you can now, not artificially, you now actually manufacture the deal, okay? Because you say, I'm a taker for that, and he's a taker for that, let's talk on the phone, let's see what it is. Balancing the equities, give a challenge, making sure everyone's commissions are fair, all that, And another thing, so I'll just say, no, I haven't brought it up yet. We can't talk too much about commissions because we're a meeting of competitors, but the reality is, the biggest thing that we're going to get when we go to another broker who's not a member of exchange groups and offer them something else as a down payment for their property and ask for a seller carry, things like that, what's the first question you usually get?
How do you get paid?
Yes, Frank's done this one. How am I going to get paid? Do you have a listing agreement? Well, of course I have a listing agreement. I couldn't put it out on the MLS without a listing agreement. Does the listing agreement say that you get paid? Yes, it does. Okay. That's how you get paid. Our listing agreements say any transfer, any of the rest of it. It doesn't say just for cash. If they close the deal, you're going to get paid. Okay? If they took in 3 cats and a dog and an RV, they're going to have to get out their checkbook and write you a check unless you particularly like any of those cats or dogs. Okay? That's just the way it is. Okay? They signed up. Remember. Is it easy to sell real estate? No. All of the people in here who are incredibly wealthy because it's hard to sell real estate. Okay? Because we get paid for that. So, alrighty. See what else I got up here in the mystery. Okay, so, thirdly, apply formulas. Okay? We have hundreds of different ways of doing transactions. We've just covered a couple of them. I'll go into a few more. But apply these things, okay? Use these different formulas. Don't just say it won't work, okay? Please don't just say it won't work. Apply the formula. This can happen during the moderation or following the presentation. During the moderation, a lot of times somebody in the room, and this is where we talk about the solution part, says, hey, what about using this formula? And the presenter says, oh my goodness, yeah, I hadn't even thought of using that formula. We talk about it. Now they've got a whole new direction to go down, okay? And then they can talk about it afterwards. How we do the presentation is we talk about the property, the people, the opportunity, and the solution. Opportunity and problem, some people say problem. That's just the way we do it. Been doing it a long time, it's very effective. That way you get the details, you know what the property is to start up front. And please, I gotta ask people also, and it happens so often in meetings, if the property isn't something that you like or think your client would want, don't stop listening, okay? There's always something in there. They may be a taker for something you got. Just always keep listening, no matter if you're not interested, because the people part of it and the opportunity, that's the meat of the sandwich, okay? Formulas might come up during the solution. Write your ideas and formulas in written mini offers so the good idea is not lost. So Erica has kindly handed these out. These are mini forms. I'm really guilty of not writing mini forms, so please forgive me and make me write one if I need to. But these are very good to have. Everybody, when they go home, the first priority is the ones that have written mini forms. Okay? When I open my notebook when I get home, if I've got a stack of written minis, I usually work on those first thing, okay? So write the mini offers. Ask more questions to optimize benefits. So this doesn't have to be done during the presentation. It can happen afterwards. Once we theoretically have a deal going, try not to get so excited you got a deal, just go under contract without exploring it. It still works if you do it, but ask some more questions, okay? And let's see if we can't make it better for everybody without, don't make perfect the enemy of the good, but make the deals as best you can, because chances are there are questions that have been asked to either of the principals that could make it better for both sides at no cost to the other side. So I just can't say that enough. So, alrighty? Okay, the power of the room. Every marketing room is what we're talking about. This is the room, okay? Think of the net worth of everybody in here. Think of how many years of experience everybody has in here, okay? We're a pretty powerful, strong group that have done well for each of us as individuals. And we're here sharing and doing this collectively, a lot of us because we like to do it, okay? Not because we need more money, okay? I'll pick on Tom. Tom doesn't need any more money, but Tom's here because he likes doing this, right?
You got it.
It's fun, right? You could put your money in the stock market and not do anything, and you go on vacation, right? But instead you drove to Albuquerque, or did you fly?
I flew.
You flew,
I
okay.
got up tired.
Yeah, boy, are my arms tired. Right? You have to say, come on, we're old enough, you gotta say that one. All right, anyhow, my biggest pet peeve is people who come to the meetings and think this is just a place to raise cash and buy properties. It is a great place to raise cash. It's a great place to buy properties, okay? It's a lot more than just that. So if you're just here to bring cash, that's fine, because you'll get some good deals, but again, there's an internet for that. The goal is to get the deals closed for the clients of the attendees, okay? That is the deal. Your clients, a client is a person under the protection of another. Our goal is to get those deals closed. Moderators will ask questions to get answers, to solicit interest in the set of benefits being offered, and to identify the order that is being placed. Remember Jason Dillard's statement, we're placing an order. We got to get up there at the podium and really properly present the order, okay? If it's not clear what we want and what we're offering, you're going to have a hard time getting deals. So. Follow up, follow up, follow up, okay? Like I said, be like a dog with a bone, okay? Don't give up until you've tried all of it, and then try again.
Central Time.
Don't forget notes, third legs, and other takers, all right? So just keep working. If you got a tough one, that's just more of a challenge, okay? And I'm trying to be encouraging, I guess, and follow up is the key. So you're going to have, here's a skinny notebook compared to some, but say you go to the national meeting, you got a notebook this thick, okay? This is a whole opportunity to do hundreds of deals. There are hundreds, if not thousands of deals in the book. If you just went to one book and went through, you can find deals. So if you ever run out of a deal, go back to your books and look. And even if you're not a party to it, you can see things that are going on and get yourself involved one way or another. All right? And when I see the dog with the bone, it makes me think of it like John McFadden. Okay, John McFadden sells land. Have any of you done a deal with John? He'll call you, right? And you call again, right? And again and again and again, and it works. Okay, he's very effective because he's like a dog with a bone. Okay, and that's how you want to be. And don't give up. Don't get discouraged. Okay, power of the room. And I think this is about all I'm getting there. Yeah. So we're about done, folks. So you can know as we get the power of the room is the people. Unbelievable. You know, if you put together the net worth and the experience, we're a pretty proud group. The formulas, we have hundreds, if not an infinite number of formulas, because they're all can be multiplied times each other. That's one of the big powers that we have that the other groups don't have. We have the knowledge of it, the cooperation, okay? I'm sure every one of us has the same feeling about this. Have you ever come across a group of people, of brokers who cooperate like this? Nowhere in the world that I know of are there professionals who cooperate like Exchangors do, okay? Now, you might not always get along. There might be one or two people that you don't want to cooperate with, but in general, we're competitors who cooperate, and we cooperate for the benefit of our clients, okay? And that is why I say some certain things, like we obviously can't talk about fees or different, there's things that we can't do because we're meeting with competitors, but that doesn't mean we have to compete. That means, we can cooperate. We can get together and cooperate. We're not, all of us have been to different groups of different agents and stuff. It's not about being the smartest or the best dressed or the fanciest self. It's about who is the best public servant, who's helping their clients and getting things done. And even for people who are just principals, okay, the public is you. you're serving that part of yourself that owns the investment and the experience. And so, besides thank you, the rest is really thank yous to the New Mexico Exchangers for the rest of the meeting. Okay, Erica and Amanda, and those who did all the work, which I think is Erica and Amanda, and Dion. Dion did work too, yeah, so we have the 3 workers. Thank you so much. And then I also want to thank the experienced members like Howard, who's not here yet, and Tony, and Rick Cook, and all the rest, because who have made this as an important part of how they do business and promoted their local group over the decades. How long have you been a member of this group, Tony?
Like 45 years.
45 years, okay? In our local group, we have the same kind of thing. How long have you been a member of, shit, forever. Yeah. So that's, we get to know each other. Some of my best friends are exchangers. It's a whole different culture, and, all I can do is welcome you to it, and, thank you for participating, and, hopefully not being too bored with this morning telling you stuff you already knew. So thank you all. We are done.